But I want to try and tie some of this together for us. And then I'd like you to be able to come away from today with some actionable items, if we were to use a secular term. In other words, some steps you can take as young leaders in the church and as leaders in the church currently, both adults and teenagers, that may impact the way that the ministry of Trinity, Chambersburg, is happening. Okay? So let's start with what I think are some basic understandings of Paul. And if we'd had a little more time, I probably would have had you go into Romans. There are a number of Romans texts that I've drawn my 4 statements from. And Romans is one of those books, one of those letters that Paul wrote that really has a little bit of everything in it in terms of his understanding. And Romans was really the book that Luther read that transformed the way he thought about Christ and about faith. But here are my four basic principles I draw from Paul from Romans. If you're as old as myself or some of the other adults in the room, we've all heard, oh, it's not you, it's me. At least once in our lives, okay, in dating relationships. For Paul, it's not you, it's Jesus. Too many Christian sects, S-E-C-T-S, too many Christian bodies in our world today, in my humble estimation, make Christianity about us, about you, about me, about the decision of whether or not we're going to follow Jesus and believe that Jesus is who he says he is. As Lutheran Christians, we have an understanding that Jesus is who he says he is, and it's Jesus' actions that help us to be in relationship with God, what we call right relationship. And all that means is that because Jesus becomes that bridge between us and God and the brokenness of being human and the perfection of God, that we can have the relationship that we have. In other words, if you or I were to try to do enough to win God's love, do enough to win God's favor, could we ever do it? And I'm seeing a lot of head shaking no for the video. No, we couldn't. I mean, we're not capable of doing that. We can't live up to Jesus. We can't be like, there's a desire, I think, for me. I'm going to talk about myself personally. I have a desire to be Christ-like. I have a desire to mimic, to reflect the light of Jesus in the way I was born. Okay? I really want that. But I can't ever be Jesus. Nor should I be. Jesus was Jesus. But the fact that I want to mimic Christ, that I want to live like Christ, that I want to be like Christ, I'm going to strive for that. Not because I want to win